Bei uns geht es jetzt weiter mit einem sehr, sehr verwandten Thema. Es geht wieder um das Thema Transparenz, Visibilität und auch das Thema Cloud. And for this one, we have to switch into English because our guest is English-speaking guest. He's already waiting in the wings. His name is
I am indeed.
Hey, there you are. His name is Nordahl. He's the Chief Operating Officer of MIXMOVE. MIXMOVE is basically, you'll tell us all the details about it, but it's basically a collaboration platform that's used in logistics and supply chain to gain better visibility. And if there was ever a time where we needed better visibility, it's probably now. I was just reminded that I had the CEO of MIXMOVE in a podcast episode at the BVL podcast last year. So I'm looking forward to what's new with you guys. You are a cool vendor considered by Gartner. So let's see what's cool about MIXMOVE. Anders, the stage is yours. Take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you for the very nice introduction. So, yeah, so we are of course very much in the view of what's happening around the world. I mean, we have built a solution and a tool that is fit for purpose in this kind of environment. And maybe quickly introduction about myself. So I've been in supply chain and global logistics for more than 30 years. I spent 20 years at Nagel, based both in Europe and in Asia, and was 4 years with DB Schenker, and now with MIXMOVE. So I'm dialing in from Singapore, actually. So it's 7 o'clock in the evening here, and I'm here to talk a little bit about what MIXMOVE is all about and what is the benefits of this kind of methodology and thought processes. If you would say that in a modern supply chain environment, you would argue that visibility needs to have enough data points so that when cargo moves between service providers, that they can all collaborate and interconnect. And that's essentially the foundation of what we've been built around. In the sense of where we are from, so we are a Norway-based company. I myself is also from Norway, even though I haven't worked there since 1997. But it's a Norwegian-based company, and we do our development and tech team is sitting in Portugal. We are providing solutions connecting customers, and again, there's service providers. So I'll go through a few use cases as we move along in this presentation. One of the key elements of MIXMOVE is efficiency, sustainability, and optimizing supply chain executions. And one of the challenges, of course, in achieving those is you'd need to go through a process change, evaluating how do you want to operate. So by doing some level of optimization on how you execute your business, the opportunity to then get the benefits will then, of course, come as part of that process. In terms of the challenges, of course, this is nothing new, but it's being now, of course, put much more on the agenda, whilst we are looking at increasing logistics cost, which has been ongoing for the last 2 years. And I do not foresee that there will be any change in that situation for at least another 3, maybe 4, 5 years, actually, we're considering. Then, of course, the ever-going driver and container shortage. Whilst container shortage would potentially resolve itself in the short term, I don't see that the driver shortage is gonna resolve itself. Now, in terms of the CO2 emission demand, these are something that we are definitely aware of, and we need to identify what can we do in order to do something really, let's say, substantial. And I want to be aware that we don't want to do a greenwashing exercise. We want to do an actual exercise where we really try to make substantial changes on how we can actually all collaborate and play our part in achieving these targets. Now, the other thing which is also, of course, transpired in the last couple of years is that customers expect a different level of deliverables. They expect a product which is very online oriented. And whilst companies are also starting to feel the pressure, they're also feeling that, well, as a business to business, why can't we operate the same way as I can do as a business-to-consumer operating environment? Now, we are also, of course, seeing the ever-going issue around increasing system complexity. So one of the challenges, of course, in global supply chain is the inherent challenge of intransparency, and there's just so many moving parts. And systems typically, and I spoke about this also on the podcast, systems and processes are predominantly created in a linear way. That means when you start something, it needs to already know where to go. And this is, of course, not an actual reality in supply chain. And of course, the last one, of course, is high on the agenda right now. So we've just been through now a few years, and it's still ongoing with COVID and restrictions around that. And I speak daily to my friends in Hong Kong, where I used to live for 10 years. It's not seemed to improve. And of course, now with Shenzhen being also under lockdown, these are ongoing challenges that we have. And literally behind this window, I'm looking at every single vessel leaving from China on the way to Europe through the port of Singapore. And it's definitely something that we need to be aware of in terms of routes and disruptions of these things. So essentially what we try to then to solve, I mean, as any startup, as any software company, we of course have to solve a problem. And one of the challenges that we've seen is, of course, that most companies, whilst they have technology deployed, most of the organizations that we talk to, they still have silo-based applications operating in what we refer to as a one-dimensional view. I also refer to it as a linear view, and it doesn't allow for changes when there's a disruption, and those are the things that we solve. In terms of working on this moving forward is, of course, in order to be able to do this in a collaborative way and collaborative supply chains, is you need to identify that operating on an item or parcel level is crucial. And why is that important? Because whilst you make an order of manufacturing, maybe you say, I'm going to have 10,000 units over a calendar year with a call-off schedule, and the call-off schedule is then assigned to a nominated customer or distributor. The world we are living in right now, where there might be overnight challenges on what you're allowed to move, how you're allowed to move, if you don't operate on a lower level of data visualization, it becomes harder to, what can you say, react to these challenges. So again, what we do, of course, with our solution is that we connect all the different service providers. We normalize how data is transferred and transmitted between service providers. We connect multiple warehouse operating environments and basically create a single pane of glass on how that is all operated. And that also means that we are agnostic to who is the service provider of the customer, what technology is being used by the individual service providers. And again, same thing with the warehouse. We typically operate as a front of the house or technology. And this is essentially then what we come in and solve. And I refer this to a lot in many ways as the middle mile optimization, okay? Because when we're looking at the first mile, it's all about getting it on board a vessel, on board an aircraft. The global mile is, of course, the main vessel route all the way from the loading port to the discharge port. But a lot of the container shortages, the vessel being stuck at anchorage, and I just looked at the numbers yesterday. Hamburg data is showing an increase in hours of waiting time. Long Beach is far away from seeing any recovery. And we have to come to a realization that a lot of those port congestions comes down to inefficiencies on the middle mile. in many of our countries around the world. And this is the solution that we have found a way out of. Now, having the granular and the aggregated view of your supply chain, of course, now gives you the power of what can I do to change? What can I do if all of a sudden I need to prioritize one product instead of another product, but the cargo is already on is already in motion? And this is what we refer to as in-transit fulfillment. So how can I change direction of goods? How can I change the nomination of whom am I shipping to, whilst product is actually in let's say an active moving environment? And again, this is part of what we believe is the path forward in operating in that kind of environment. Now, what we then, of course, also have to look at is what are the benefits that you can drive out of this. So number one, of course, it's knowing where is my cargo, identifying that it's moving at the pace that you have agreed, that you've paid for, that you've designed, that your customers are expecting from yourself. Having the ability to be able to trace the products. So if I deliver one, shipment into one service provider's network, and from that point I need to deliver to another service provider, how can I engage and ensure that the traceability down to carton items and pallets are maintained? And again, that's part of the solution that we do provide here. Now, dynamically making changes is something that we've proven ourselves to do when COVID hit in Europe, where one of our key customers, being quite essential in the process of getting hospitals supplied with PPE equipment and so on and so forth, they needed to halt non-essential products. And one of the things that we then, of course, helped with is, with literally 2-3 hours, reconfigure the entire routing of products. How do we hold? How do we prioritize? How do we speed up and slow down? How can we quickly engage in setting up an emergency facility to handle the overflows? How can we still manage that overflow and be able to effectively operate still in that kind of environment, right? And one of the things that operating on a parcel level, it allows you then that kind of capability. Okay, now another thing that this also will also allow you to do is you can easily convert all your products and flow of goods into e-com orders, either being a delivery into a aggregator for web shop sales and executions, or that you can also do it yourself with much more minimal onboarding time and cost. So one of our customers, Sonoé, this is a Portuguese customer of ours. These are some of the statements. After deploying our technology, they said, finally, we have full visibility of the entire operations in real time across all carriers. And in this environment, we are connecting telematics to the trucks. We have, of course, full visibility of the products that are assigned to the vehicles. And this allows us now to look at not only the cargo flows, but also the asset management of the fleet. And that combined allows you now also to look at telematic data, identifying what's the fuel consumption of this truck. Is the driver using the correct kind of driving behavior? And when we're looking at fuel prices that are skyrocketing and it's not going to come down, those kind of elements are, in addition to route optimization, equally important to ensure that everybody plays their part to conserve the valuable resources that we have. And when we're talking about that optimization, this is essentially where we combine hard and soft rules, as well as real-time data on streets and highways and cities, in order to identify what's the most efficient way to drive, but also what is the most efficient use of equipment. So what kind of vehicle should I use on one route versus another route dynamically? And this is again one of the areas where our customers are delighted with what we offer. And I'll talk some of the beneficial numbers in a minute. So if you then look at the utilization, so what we do with our technology is that we are looking at how do we pick orders from a warehouse, outbound orders or pick orders. Are we picking it based on a sales order, or are we picking it based on product? And one of the things that we believe is in many organizations, there's an opportunity to pick on product level, ship on product level, and only reconstruct a sales order in the last point where we do the last mile. And one of the benefits of this is and this is data, and I'll show you more details on this in a minute, is that of course you can maximize a fill rate on vehicles deployed. It allows you to have a hub and spoke operation, multi-country consolidation, where you can look at operating in a very different way and utilizing different ways of operations. Now, if we then look at the average container as well as truck fill rate around the world, if we have the opportunity to max load these assets, it also means that you get a proven freight reduction, also freight cost reduction of up to 35%. And we have also seen a emission reduction of 50%. And why are we seeing this 50%? Because we need literally 50% less assets, less trucks to move the products. So of course, when we're now looking at enhancing the driver behavior, we're looking at assets that are more environmentally friendly. The actual emission targets are even then higher at the end of the day. Now, operating on an item or parcel or pallet level, all barcoded and identified, we have pioneered now a digital twin barcode label that we deploy in our environment. And with that digital twin, we now allow parties to be able to scan a product, scan a carton, scan a shipping pallet, and through the digital twin, identify direction of goods. And of course, one of the things that this benefits is now we can avoid certain activities that traditional warehouse operations would need to do. We can automate inbound, outbound. We can optimize the front of the house so that we can do cross-dock operations, which are a lot more efficient than the traditional warehouse put away, wait for instruction, then do a pick phase, and then build these products. Now, another opportunity that we also are deploying is when you do have a fulfillment by Amazon and you have inbound bulk products, you need to relabel them to fit into the Amazon network. Those are also activities that we do with our technology. And of course, the ability to do self-fulfillment. This is again something that our technology can be deployed to serve, meaning your existing service provider, through this technology, through our connectivity to web shops, can operate with self-fulfillment and of course take cost out of how you operate your business. In terms of what we've done with 3M, so our technology was essentially started off as a project with 3M and DHL. And the benefits that they have been able to draw is what I mentioned before as well, a fill rate up to 96%, which is probably as high as you can get. Before and after, a cost reduction of 35% because they need less vehicles. They have a more optimized, in a dynamic way, knowledge on what vehicle do I need today versus tomorrow. So instead of always having the same fleet operating a network, now they can have the correct type of fleet operating in the network. Now, what this also allows you to do is to, as you run through the optimization, you can get a better view of what kind of fleet, what kind of vehicles do I need to be engaged in the way I operate my business. And these are, of course, the numbers that we can prove. Now, I'm not going to go through every single text here because you can read that yourself, but we really need to understand the end-to-end supply chain in order for us to optimize where we can actually do the optimization, right? So in terms of the first mile, there are opportunities for first mile optimization. There are a little bit of opportunity when it comes to the middle mile optimization. Sorry, the global mile optimization. But the main area in terms of where we can cost out in global operations is really the middle mile and last mile. This is where there is an incredible amount of opportunities to speed up. We're basically talking about gaining days in the process. So if you can imagine your cargo is now flowing 2 to 3 days faster through the network just because of the process change. We are looking at higher efficiency of utilization, meaning instead of having to find 10 trucks, now I only need to find 6, maybe a maximum 7 trucks. So that also speeds up the whole overall flow of goods in your network. Now, when we are looking at the increasing logistics cost, we of course have to look at do I have the right vehicle fleet? Do I have the right providers offering me the products that I need to have? How can I ensure that in a dynamic way I have the correct amount of needs for drivers? I can reduce my need for trucks by 7%, or sorry, by maybe 30 to 40%, meaning I need less drivers. The driver can operate in a network where they don't have to spend 2 days or 3 days on a trip. We can create environments of connecting what we refer to as nodes, where all the vehicles in your network is basically having a day job. They wake up in the morning, they show up at 6, 7 o'clock in the mornings, they work until, again, according to legal working hours, but they can go home and have dinner. And creating that kind of environment will also make it more attractive for drivers to be in this industry. It makes it attractive for them to have a normal life. And it also makes it beneficial for the CO2 demand and CO2 emissions. Because all of these things combined creates the value. Now, if you can do all of that at the same time as increasing the delivery speed, you can get your products out there faster. You can get a saving on how to get it done much faster. You can connect players and partners where before you found it very, very difficult to get them connected. You can actually normalize how products are flowing in your network between different service providers. And all of that combined will, of course, now allow you to dynamically change direction of flows. It allows you to look at disruptions. There might be a warehouse, which we've seen throughout the last couple of years, where a facility got locked down because the warehouse staff is all either they have COVID or maybe they might have Omicron, which means they don't need hospital care, but they're still on sick leave, right? So if your entire warehouse staff is infected and need to sit at home and wait it out for 6, 7 days, that's of course a challenge. And again, looking at what we do with our technology, we allow customers to change that. Now, we solve all of these problems, we solve all of these challenges. Again, some of the numbers that we've seen here, also with our customers, proves what we're talking about. Okay. So that's all I have for today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to take any questions.
Wow, Anders, you did an absolute point landing on the dot. 12:28, fantastic. That does leave us a little bit of time for a couple of questions. An obvious one that I have that I'm going to point out to you is there's a multitude of different solutions in the market now that promise collaboration capabilities, complete visibility across your entire supply chain, multimodal. Just give us in a nutshell your best pitch of why you believe that MIXMOVE does things better and differently than all the other options that are out there on the market.
So the simple answer is most of our competitors, they do this on a shipment level, and we do it on a parcel level.
Okay.
That's the differentiation.
Yeah, I know you touched on it. Can you elaborate on what that really means so it really stands out and becomes crystal clear to the audience?
Yeah, so what what it means is that when you have products moving between facilities and between factories as well as distributors, whilst you can change the direction of a pallet, it doesn't mean that I can assign a customer order to that pallet. I have to wait for that pallet to arrive in the last warehouse before I can assign a customer order. And our technology, we of course allow you to do that dynamically whilst the product is in motion. That's really the big differentiation. Yeah.
So I heard someone's knocking on the door. Is that your door? Someone's.
Yeah, no, that's my door. That's my door.
Oh yeah, leave her in. Come on in. We'll bring her in.
You're not gonna have anybody doing any dancing here.
Yeah, there's a question coming up that I also had jotted down. I mean, it really goes to the heart of a problem that just every one of these collaboration platforms that tie in different sources of data have, and that's the question of data quality. You know, it's an old adage: garbage in, garbage out. You know, what sort of data quality challenges do you see, and how do you solve them?
No, so I think I mentioned it even on the first slide. If you don't sort out your data in the beginning, if you don't have good master data, if you don't have good product information, if you ship products without barcode labels, then of course it's very difficult to get any benefit out of how you operate your supply chain. Look at it the same when you go to the airport and you check in your luggage. Can you imagine they checked in the luggage without a barcode on it? You'll be freaking out. You'll be like, how can you ship your products without being traceable, right? But this is that's a reality in today's supply chain. We do not have sufficient, I would say, digital cartons in supply chains, and that is a challenge. So that's a challenge for everyone, including ourselves. But we do offer solutions where we can label whilst the cargo is in motion. So we do have the capabilities to do that. So those are maybe some of the bigger challenges that we all are faced with. But I think the industry as a whole really need to become digital, living digital, and not just having a digital plan, but an actual digital environment. And then with that, you get a digital experience.
Yeah, and obviously you also have the situation where no supply chain ever stays the same. You constantly want to be changing partners in and out and integrating partners. Talk to us about how quickly and how easily that works in a scenario where you are dependent on good data quality and you bring in on new partners. How do you make sure that works out the gates, and what's the process there?
So our capabilities talks about exactly what you mentioned there. So we created an environment where adding a new cross-dock or a new warehouse, if we get it, let's say, planned and so on and so forth, we can have it up and running within 7 days, a new facility. Onboarding service providers, as long as the shipping point has a barcode label that we identify, onboarding a new supplier is really almost limited number of interfaces needed. Because we operate with mobile technology, and as long as they download the app from the Google Play Store, any scanner, including a commercial one as well as a consumer scanner, can be used to operate your business. So we are looking at a very, very minimum amount of time and cost to onboard new providers.
Yeah, and for the audience today, who's your ideal customer profile? Who's the company, the description in Germany that really should absolutely look at your solution right now?
Yeah, so I mean, I mentioned, of course, the big 3M. That's our anchor customer. So any customer that have that kind of aspiration and transpire to operate in that kind of environment, they should really have a talk to us and identify what do they do and how could they transform to live digital and really have that experience to their customers and service providers.
Yeah. Maybe last question that I had too is, how does your system fit into the existing IT landscape and infrastructure? So most of your customers probably run SAP or similar ERP systems. How does your system work? How does it integrate with existing systems?
So our system is built around collaboration. Okay, so one of the things that we do, we also a member of an organization called ALICE. So that's an environment talking about the physical internet, where we have also won a few awards. Now, we have customers, of course, they operate SAP, they operate with Oracle, they operate with planning tools, they operate with warehouse management tools provided by either the service provider or they facilitate it themselves. So we are built, number one, we're born in the cloud. We are built as an organization using best of breed in terms of API capabilities. So we don't really have an issue communicating with different systems. This is really where the core of what we have put together comes to fruition. Is really about understanding what different systems are doing and what are the needs of the different systems.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Another point landing. We're at 12:35. Thank you very much, Anders, for that very interesting
You're most
presentation
welcome.
and conversation. Thank you very much. Good luck in the market.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye-bye.